Hey there, Cerise here. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for subscribing and thank you for liking this video. I appreciate you. So, some stories from under the mango tree. The story that I have for you guys today is quite interesting. But before we start, what I want to remind you of is if you have a story that you want to share here with me on YouTube that I'm going to share with people, then you can go ahead and send it to me at cerisefairfax@gmail.com. That's CERISEFAIRFAX @gmail.com. You can send me your story, and I would love to read it to all my viewers, and also, well, not read it necessarily, but repeat it. And I will make sure that I keep your name confidential and also the place that it was taken place in. Even if you don't want me to keep it confidential, I'm still going to, because there will be other people involved in your story that may not want to be spoken about. Okay, so here we go. The story today is one about, by the way, if you guys hear like a lot of panting, hi Chiquito, my guard dog. He's become my best friend. And Noche too. But Chiquito is, he follows me everywhere I go. I think he needed me a lot. But anyway, guys, more about Chiquito in other videos. And so, this story here that I'm going to talk about today is actually quite interesting. For me, I was like, oh my gosh, it angered me and it frustrated me to think that human beings could be just so, inconsiderate of the hardships that other people have gone through in life. But let's just get to it. And you know what? I think overall, hold on one second. I hear someone calling me in the background. I don't want to be disconnected. Hold on. I'm making a video right now. I already said that before I came out here. So, anymore? Okay. So, this is how the story goes. Um, there is a gentleman. He was born in the Dominican Republic, and he had the opportunity to be invited from a cousin to go visit the United States. And he did. He went to the United States for, oh, I think he went for about a month or 2 weeks or something of this nature. We're going back many years ago. And when he went to the United States, he was about, I think he said 40, because right now he's 70. And he went, he chilled, he hung out, he had a really good time, and then he didn't want to leave the United States. So when it came time for him to leave, he took off. He left his family and he left them high and dry. He felt so horrible to do something like that to his family. When he was telling me the story, it brought tears to his eyes, and I felt so bad for him. He didn't tell me what would happen to his family or if his family would have to pay money for anything or anything of that nature, but it did make him cry that he was so dishonest, if you will. So then he decided to stay in the States. He found his way by doing like under the table work. First, he was working in some Dominican restaurants and stuff of that nature, and then he started to work as a construction worker. He found something that he really loved and something that paid the bills and where he wasn't struggling every day. So construction work was great for him. And then he started to meet a lot of people on like the construction site, other workers and employees and stuff who he grew so closely with. They all became like best friends, brothers, and stuff like that. Then after a while, they started to invite him out after work, and they invited him to bars. And then after a while after that, because they were all so close, it only made sense for them to invite him to their family parties. So one Christmas came, and his foreman was feeling very generous, and he was like, oh my gosh, come to my house please, you just got to come and stay for family vacation. And it's his house, let's say it was in New York and his house is in the Hamptons. Okay, let's say that it's not, but let's just use that as an example. So, the guy who I was talking to, we'll call him Jose, the guy from the Dominican Republic, just to protect his name. Jose said, "Sure. Oh my gosh, thank you so much for the invite. Otherwise, he would have been alone at Christmas time, and Christmas was very important to him. It made him miss his family and stuff. So he was just so honored to be able to be invited to the foreman's house." Well, when he got there, his Spanish, his English wasn't all that. His English, he was embarrassed about it. Not everybody understood him. Not everybody had patience to talk to him. So he ended up just going out on the back patio, and it was like he said he can remember it being very, very cold, and he can remember breath coming out of his mouth. And a woman came up behind him and said, "You don't strike me as the smoking type." And then he said he turned around, and what he saw, what he felt from this woman was kindness. Like she was just someone who he was going to talk to for the rest of the night. She was going to be his savior. And she was. And not just for the rest of the night. So they got very close. And he ended up finding out, like about a couple of weeks later, as he ended up talking to her a lot and everything like that. He was calling her all the time from a payphone, he said, because you have to remember this was like 30 years ago. And he was calling her all the time from a payphone and everything. And even the foreman was like, "Who are you calling on your lunch break now? Like, who did you meet? Wow, this must be a female." And when he found out the connection between the foreman and the female, he became very nervous and very scared. The reason why is because she is the sister of the foreman. So now Jose is thinking, oh my gosh, like, is this okay in this culture? Will, he be all right with me dating his sister? So how he found out was the sister just said, "So my brother said you guys are getting off work early tonight. Do you want to go to the movies?" Now, he said, "Who's your brother?" And she said, "Your boss." And he was like, "Oh, that's your brother?" And she's like, "Well, you were at my mother's house at Christmas time. Like, that was my mother's house, not my brother's house," kind of thing, right? And Jose was like, "Ooh, okay." And that's when it became sticky for him. And he wanted, let's call the foreman Mike. He wanted Mike really to know the truth. So he told Mike, "I didn't know she was your sister, but I really do like her. And is it okay if I date your sister?" And Mike, the foreman, was like, "Come on, dude, don't play games. That's my sister." And Jose said, "What do you mean I'm not playing games? I'm being honest. I'm dating her. We've been talking now for almost 2 weeks." And well, pretty much 2 weeks. And then Mike was like, "Listen, man, that's my baby sister. And I don't want you playing games in my family. If you want your citizenship, you can get your citizenship, but you have to work for it and I can help sponsor you. Don't try to use my baby sister to help get you citizenship here." And he was like going on and on saying, "I respect you, buddy," and everything. And Jose said the only thing he could remember is Mike saying over and over again, "I respect you, buddy. I respect you, but I'm not cool with you being with my sister. You're going to use her. You're going to use her." So when Jose said to me, he said that's all he could hear. So Jose stopped the guy and he's like, "What is your problem? Why? Why do you think I'm using your sister for citizenship? Is she not worthy loving?" And then that's when Mike said, "Oh, you really think so? Look at you, man. Look at you. You're a doll. You're a Ken doll. And my sister, she's Barney. Let's keep it real, right?" And I find it funny because I said to Jose, "Barney, was Barney 30 years ago?" Right? And because Barney, my daughter is 28 right now. We're in 2019, right? So let's make sure we have the, ages right. No, my daughter's 30. Oh wait, my daughter's 30. Yeah, and she used to watch Barney, and yeah, yeah. Okay. Anyway, I digress. But so then the guy said, "Oh, and look, she's Barney," and I'm not laughing at the comment, but I was laughing at the Barney statement. And now I realize that Barney did exist then. But the guy, for those of you who don't know who Barney is, just Google Barney, purple dinosaur. And so that's what the brother was saying his sister looked like. Jose took it he took it so, what's the word I'm looking for? Personally. that he was like, oh, no, 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 you can't do that. That's not cool. And he said he stood up and he said to Mike, okay, I see you don't want me to date your sister. I won't. But, that was it. Jose said to me that he understood that why Mike would think that. Because I asked, I said, was she a beautiful woman or like, and he said, she was a beautiful woman. 100%. Her heart was beautiful and she just was radiant on the outside. And he said that anybody can lose weight. Anybody can lose weight. But beauty is something when it cannot be mistaken. I wish I could say it in the words that he said it, but he said it so beautifully. And he just said that, anybody could lose weight. Yes, she was overweight, but she was so beautiful. And I was like, oh, that's so sweet. And he said, sometimes men don't look at women who are overweight and they don't look at the beauty at them. He said, if you just look at their face, at the way they walk, and he started to go on and on and on about how beautiful this woman was. And Jose is a nice looking man, even in his 70s, I guess. He's like 70 now. Even he's a nice looking man now. He could do some modeling for like Hugo Boss and stuff of this nature, Like I think he's a really nice looking man. But back then he must have been like a stunner, radiant himself. So he said that's why he could understand why Mike went off like that. But he said, he decided to tell Mike, I'm not going to stop dating your sister. And that was it. First he said, I'll stop dating her if you want me to, but only if you think it's for citizenship, but not for the reasons that you said, because of her looks. And then Mike was like, you know what, buddy, I don't care. I'm glad you came to me and you told me the truth. Then Mike contacted his sister and flipped out on his sister and told his sister that he forbids her from seeing Jose, and that he'll fire Jose, and that he will get Jose kicked out of the country and everything like that. So the sister didn't know that Jose was here illegally until Mike told her. So then she contacted Jose and said, Jose, you're here illegally? Let's go get married. So Jose was like, no way, I'm not going to get married to you right now under these circumstances. And she told him what her brother was going to do. So obviously he got scared because he can't lose his job and he cannot lose what he worked for, and he really wanted a better life. He was accomplishing something in the United States, and he was also doing very well for himself, and he was getting money back home to his family as well. I don't know how he did that. I didn't ask him because I don't think Western Union really existed then, or Caribbean Express, and bank accounts I'm sure existed, but if he was there illegally, I don't know, maybe he knew Dominicans that were flying back and forth or what have you, but that's for another story, part two. But so he didn't want to give everything up. So he went to Mike and he said, you know what, Mike, I'm not going to date your sister. And just let's leave it at that. I'm sorry, but I don't want to cross lines and I don't want you to feel like I'm doing you wrong because I was your friend first before I was interested in your sister just for a couple of weeks. So Mike said, oh, I respect that, buddy. I respect that. And then some time went on. I think he said about a month or 2 months, because he said it was under 2 months, right? But he kind of like made it to me feel like it was closer to 2 months as opposed to a month, because he said he went on a couple of dates with her and he mentioned about a couple of weekends and stuff of that nature, and he mentioned a third weekend. So like they went every second weekend on dates, right? And they went 3 times. That's why I'm thinking it was closer to 2 months. So he said on the second date he felt like they were being watched, but he didn't say anything to the girl. Let's call her Christina. He didn't say anything to Christina. So now the third date, he felt like there was something going on. And he said to Christina, do you know anybody across the street or around the corner or anything in a green sedan? And Christina said, yeah, my brother's best friend drives a green sedan. Like, it's just a crazy looking car. And she started to describe it. And he said, yes, that car is following us. And she was like, oh, okay. So she was, just pretty much, she was like, okay, well, I'm not surprised. Let's just go into this shop. And so they went into a shop and everything. And that's when he was like, Jose knew he had to talk to Mike again. So he was planning on calling Mike. So he dropped Christina off where they usually met and everything. He went back to his place. He went to the local payphone and he went to call Mike, but Mike picked up the phone and said to him, hey, Jose, I want to talk to you. I have a great job opportunity for you. Can you meet me down at the job site that we're working on now? And Jose's like, at this time of night? And he's like, yeah, man, yeah, you think you could do that? And he's like, yeah, okay. So Jose, thinking that, oh my gosh, okay, Mike is not mad and he's just misunderstanding the friend being following them around, and that Mike is actually going to put him in a brand new job. So he hurried over there, thinking that his friendship was still intact with Mike. So he gets to the job site, and Mike says, yeah, man, um, I also want to talk to you about my sister. And he swung at Jose, and Jose swung back at him, and then they, to protect himself. And then the guy, Mike, he fell. And when he fell, um, it looked like he fell to Jose into a thing of concrete. And this is where, for me, the story gets a little confusing, and also strange, just strange. It was like the setup. They had Jose set up. I think the guy pretended. There's a bug on my phone. I think the guy pretended to fall into the tank. It was late and it was dark. Jose says it was dark, and he heard like a concrete splash, like how it sounds if a bucket was falling into concrete. And he said something fell into the concrete. If it wasn't a body, it was something very, very heavy, like a body. So he said when he punched the guy, they were standing by the concrete. And he said, where else would the guy go to? And all he said is he remembers the guy going, Jose, Jose, ah, and screaming. Like, he said it was like, Jose, like a muffled Jose. And I was like, Jose, if the guy falls in concrete, isn't the concrete kind of thick? Wouldn't you hear him say, Jose, Jose, like first and then, or whatever? And Jose was like, yes, you're smart. You got it. And he said, just let me finish the story, And I was like, okay. And by this time I was on my seat because I'm like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen now? So then all of a sudden, he said a guy came around and said, I knew you were going to try to kill my buddy. You better F off. You better run for your life. You better leave this country now, man, as I'm going to get you. And then Jose said he just took off and he hightailed it, and he went right back, came right back here to the Dominican Republic and didn't look back. And he said then after a year, his conscience got to him too much. He couldn't sleep, he couldn't eat, and he thought, oh my gosh, look at what I've caused in someone else's country. Look at what I did to the woman's family that I love. And even though at this point he was only with her for like probably a couple of months, right? Because he was dating her a couple of weeks before he told Mike, and then they continued to date for like, just almost 2 months. Then that means, I guess, over 2 months they were dating, right? And he really did fall in love with Christina, let's call her. And so then what happened was he contacted her and he said, listen, I'm really sorry for what I did to your family. And he told her that he's ready to go back to the United States and they can take him from here and he will admit to the crime that he committed. And she was like, what crime? And he said, for killing your brother. She said, well, which brother are you talking about? I wish you did that. And he was like, your brother? And she's like, I have one brother, Mike. And she's like bumhole Mike, And he was like, what do you mean? He's alive? She's like, yeah, he's downstairs right now. We're having a family dinner. I wish he wasn't here. I wish he was dead. And she was like just going on and on. She didn't realize that Jose was being serious. And she's like, what kind of story are you calling with Jose? What type of, what are you trying to do here? You left and you're using this as an excuse? And he's like, no, really, seriously. And then he started to tell her the story. And she was like, oh my gosh, are you the one that my brother and his friend always laughs about? And she's like, I heard this story a few times, but they didn't tell me it was you. They just said it was a guy they work with. And then then she said, I never thought it was you. And she never knew how to get a hold of him. And of course he was hiding because he didn't want her to get a hold of him. So she said to him, is it okay if I come to the Dominican Republic, if I go to the Dominican Republic to visit you? And he said, please come, sure. And he made her take pictures of her brother first, just so he wasn't surprised. And she took pictures of her brother and everything like that, brought them down just to prove to Jose that her brother is alive and kicking. And Jose was very hurt. And he felt like, didn't almost feel like it. He felt like that brother took a large part of his life, an entire year where he could have grown in the United States and been with Christina and stuff like that. But Christina wasn't going to have it any other way. And she married Jose while she was here in the Dominican Republic. She stayed for quite a while. She had a lot of vacation days under her hat, and she rented a place here beside Jose's family. And we're going back like 30 years ago, where I don't know how popular it was for expats to come here then, but he said a lot of Canadians used to come back then. And he said a lot of people used to just live here like how I live here now, right? Like a lot of people, he said it's always been done. Expats have always come here and enjoyed themselves here. And so he said she did that, and she stayed for quite a while with all her vacation. She was very lucrative. Her position, her work position, was very lucrative. She had it for many years, and she was also in her 40s at the time too, and never had any children. Jose never had any children either, and so she was able to take a long-term leave of absence kind of thing, and she stayed here, and they got married, and they finished their love affair. Well, they continued their love affair. Then, when she had to go back to work to the United States, she sent for him, and she hired him on at the company that she worked at and gave him a very good job, great pay. He worked very hard. It wasn't just a job that, let me give my husband this job. She knew he would be able to fulfill any type of demands for the job. And he did, and he saved a lot of money, and he made a lot of money, and the two of them lived a very awesome life together. She ended up getting cancer. Oh, check this out. During their time together, not once did she ever take Jose to her home. They were together for, she just recently passed away, but, oh, I'm giving away the story, but of cancer, let me just say that. But she had cancer for many years, and not once did she tell her family. She would just tell them she's tired, she's working a lot, even when she took early retirement. And her brother said, I heard that you retired from one of your coworkers. She said, oh yeah, but I'm still doing some work on the side, working from home, just tired. And she would go to the family events, but she never took Jose. And he never wanted to go either. And he never felt like he was being hidden. He always felt like he was being protected. And so when she would go, she would always bring food home for him, and she would only stay for an hour just to go to her family events, and it was only during holidays, and that was it. That's the only time she spent with her family. But she was always going back and forth from the States to here to the Dominican Republic, back and forth, because she felt this was her home. She felt like this is where the people loved her most. And Jose taught her Spanish and everything, right? And she taught him how to speak perfect English. So the two of them, they really made a good life of themselves. Now, when she did die, he went to her and her family, because her wishes were that they don't get a cent of her money. And she ended up passing away wealthy. And she didn't want them to have 1 cent. So she told this to her doctor. She made it in a video, and she also told it to um, her lawyer, and anyone that she could. She didn't want her family around her poking for anything. And that was it. She passed on, and she's buried here. He brought her body back here, and she's died recently. And he goes back and forth from the United States to the Dominican Republic. He spends most of his time here. She's buried on a property here, beachfront property that he has here. If I told you guys the name of the beachfront property, you would probably be very surprised. But that is confidential. And she died a happy life, and she died a happy wife as well. And so, he did tell the family, even though she was like, you don't have to tell the family anything when I'm passed on. I don't need you to tell the family anything. You don't owe them anything. He did. And he went to them and he told them exactly what happened, how long she was sick for, why she didn't want to tell them. And the video that she made was primarily for them anyway, just in case they tried to take him through court when they did find out, because it is something tough to hide, right? And she probably also knew that the honest man he was going to be honest with her mother. Even her mother's still alive. Her mother's in her 90s. So he knew that he had to tell somebody. And so, long story short, now, when I was talking to him, I was so impressed by him because he had no animosity, no hate, no resentment at all, and he's very happy. His life is very fulfilled. But I guess what he's saying is, well, his moral of the story was, please, if two people are in love, it doesn't matter where they're from. Not everybody from the Dominican Republic is trying to get out and marry someone. Not everybody is trying to use someone. So there is going to be another story that I'm going to talk about, Sankey Panky, a guy who admittedly is a Sankey Panky, and it's going to be a few videos, if not the next one, then the next one over. I have so many stories I'm going to share with you guys. I'm just going to pop them out, a story a day. And make sure you send your stories in to me too. Again, I'll protect your name and everything of that nature. But yeah, like this guy said, he just wants me to share with everyone that there are true loving men. And he's like, there's a lot of beautiful Dominican Republic women, and like aesthetically beautiful, and men as well, and they're not all looking for beautiful people. They're looking for good hearts. They're looking for people who they can trust, who they can believe is going to be there for them when the times are really bad, and not just so they can lean on them as a financial security, but they can rely on them for survival. He's like, that's all it is really down here. People aren't trying to use anyone. Yes, of course, there's gold diggers all around the world. My gosh, there's a lot in Canada, and they're all around the world. But, he said he just wants everyone to know that he really did love his wife, and she really did love him, and the two of them passed a very good relationship together. And he also feels her every single day. He hears her voice wake him up for breakfast every day, too. He wanted me to share that with you guys. All right, guys, so that's a true story here. You know what? If you don't approve of your loved ones marrying someone from another country, and you think it's all about citizenship and everything, and you want to speak up, sure, speak up. Let yourself be heard, and let your concerns be known. But don't go out of your way to sabotage the relationship and prevent people from being happy, because you never know. It could be the love of their life, their soulmate that they met, and all they need is just your acceptance, or if not your acceptance, then you to stay out of it and let them make their own mistakes, if it is a mistake. Okay, guys, thank you so much for joining me. Cerise here from CeriseFairfax.com. Thank you for subscribing and for liking this video. If you have a story, send it to me at CeriseFairfax@gmail.com. That's CeriseFairfax@gmail.com. The next story might be about the Sankey Panky, or it might be about a prostitute who is being very honest about how she makes her money, and how she wants it to be known that she doesn't want her time to be wasted.